Well, hello, Bible study leaders. I hope you're having a good week and that you have begun to prepare for Sunday morning to lead us, your church, in Bible study. This week we're lesson number 21, Risking Everything for God. And the main text used is Joshua chapter 2. I'll give you some background, and I highly suggest that you read Joshua 1 and 2 to get you acquainted with the story. But basically at this point, Moses has died. And it's really interesting how Joshua chapter 1, we really don't get much of a transition. Moses pretty much dies. God then speaks to Joshua and says, "My servant Moses is dead. Now get up and walk into the land of Canaan. Take it." That's my paraphrase, of course. But there's very little time spent on dwelling or on, remembering Moses, or just get up and go. It's time for you to step up. And this week we'll look at the character of Rahab. You're probably familiar with the story, but Joshua sends 2 spies into the land again. You might remember that 40 years earlier, Moses had done the same with 12 spies. This time Joshua sends 2. This is almost the movie version, take 2, action. Joshua sends these 2 spies into the land and to survey, and basically the king, the present ruler, gets word that 2 spies have entered the land, and these 2 spies wind up hiding in the house of a local prostitute by the name of Rahab. And it's interesting how, if you read chapter 2, you get this picture of, and it was told to the king of Jericho, "Behold, the men of Israel have come here tonight to search out the land." Then the king of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have come to you." So it's interesting how the Bible doesn't really tell us how the king found out, when the king found out. It's just pretty much immediate narrative. Somehow the king found out through people that these men from Israel have entered the land, and of course there was this intention, or they just assumed this intention that this was probably a takeover was going to happen. And somehow as well, they found out that they were they were in Rahab's house. Rahab was a local prostitute. Rahab was a woman of ill repute, and it's interesting how she risks everything. So this week, as you prepare, there are a couple of just general questions, general parameters that we want to be working on. One of the big things you could talk to your group is past choices do not have to define present choices. At this point, even in our society today, somebody with a bad background, say a drug dealer, say a child molester, say a prostitute, they carry this stigma for the rest of their lives as being somebody who is impossible to restore. Well, this is not the case with Rahab. Rahab, being a prostitute, does something far and above beyond being a good moral choice. But she does something based on what she has heard about God. This is verse 10. This is Rahab speaking to the spy. She says, "For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan. And as soon as we heard it, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, He is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath." So this woman is in fact proclaiming, accepting God through faith. She is acknowledging who God is based on what she has seen Him do, and bowing down to Him in her heart. So this isn't just her trying to help. This is a spiritual assistance. This is her confessing, "Listen, the God that you guys believe in, we fear Him. I personally fear Him, and I confess." And this is what's remarkable about this story, that through this story, God lets us know that we can come to Him regardless of how much baggage we have, regardless what's in our past, and He will restore us. and make something of worth. A second question that you can ask that leads up to this is that faith in God will lead to right decisions. If you notice, Rahab is risking her life. The king sends his agents into her home, and she has a choice to make. She could have very easily told the soldiers there. I mean, can you imagine? If the president were to send, if you're hosting somebody in your house, and the president sends the FBI or the CIA into your house and says, "Where is this person?" and you are hiding this person, and you're thinking in your head, "Okay, if I give this person up, I'm okay. I'm not going to be arrested. I'm not going to be thrown into some federal prison. Or do I just keep him and risk being thrown into a federal prison, being treated for treason or whatever?" This was Rahab's decision, and she made the right one. She hid these guys, and based on faith, she was more fearful of God. She uses this language that our hearts melted, that people melted at the thought of the people of Israel coming into Jericho, taking over. So in fact, her fear was greater towards God than towards anything the king could do to her or any of the consequences. And then the second thing is future life choices reflect faith more than any single momentary decision. It's interesting how the story of Rahab is also commented within the rest of the canon. We find her in the Hall of Faith in Hebrews chapter 11, how this decision is something that remains even after Rahab has died. So as you prepare this week, several issues that you guys want to talk about are who God can use. God can use anybody. God can restore anyone. We have another example in the Apostle Paul, how Paul, before coming to Christ, was a Christian killer. The guy killed Christians, and God turned his life completely around. We have Moses as example, who was a murderer, and God brought him to Pharaoh to speak and to release the people of Israel from Pharaoh's hand. And then you have this beautiful example of Rahab. One of the last questions you can ask your group and just kind of focus is, how do we treat people? How do we see people? What is the difference between how we look at somebody and what they've done in the past, and how God looks at somebody and what they've done in the past, and how we can become judgmental, and how we can, even though we forgive, we might always hold a certain stigma or hold something over people's heads. "Oh, you used to do this." That's not the way God works. You confess your sins, you come to Christ, and you're forgiven and restored. And the wonderful thing about the gospel is it doesn't end there. God then God then brings you into his glory and allows you to be an agent for his glory here on earth. So I hope you guys have a good week. And should you have any questions, any comments, feel free to email me or call me in the office.